Funding for this program was provided by Community Trust Bank, serving the communities of North Louisiana, Texas, and Mississippi for more than a century. Community Trust Bank is a proud partner of LPB's Louisiana Legends.
Funding for this program was provided by the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting.
Now let's just spoon this over here.
My mother just loves the art of dining, and I think to her it is an art. She loves to make people happy, and food is the catalyst for her to do that.
As much a Louisiana institution as her New Orleans restaurant, chef, author, and entrepreneur Leah Chase uses her gifts to uplift spirits and feed the soul.
She's always referred to in our industry as the queen of Creole cooking. And not only because she's a fabulous cook and restaurateur and emulated by young chefs all over the country, but she's a queen in demeanor as well, in her ability to give.
Born in Madisonville as the eldest of 11 children, Leah's Creole Catholic parents instilled in her a strong faith and a desire to serve.
She has this, I'm not going to quote it exactly, this saying that she says a lot. It's pray hard, work hard, and help others. And I think that's her guiding mantra, so to speak, of just how can you make this a better place.
She married musician Dooky Chase in 1946 and began working at his family's restaurant in the 50s. She would soon transform its atmosphere and menu, creating dishes that reflected her Creole heritage.
She had this idea to bring fine dining element, or let's say a sit-in dining element, to a restaurant, and this was a restaurant, an African-American restaurant, and at the time there weren't many places where we could go and sit down and really just enjoy a nice meal, tablecloth, service, and everything.
Dooky Chase's became a mainstay for African-American celebrities and a gathering place for civil rights activists during the 60s.
That's where the strategy was devised. That's where they had the fabulous food that Leah prepared. And food is good for the soul, and food helps you to think, and Leah provided that, as well as the space and the encouragement.
Her support extended to the arts, using her dining room walls as showcases for up-and-coming African-American artists, and her generosity of spirit continues to receive state and national recognition.
It's not only about the food industry, it's about arts, it's about the museums, it's about music. Wherever you see great things happening in this country, and especially Louisiana, you're going to find Leah Chase.
Katrina's floodwaters destroyed Leah's home and business. But on Holy Thursday, 2007, she welcomed guests back into her nearly refurbished restaurant for gumbo zerbs, a tradition she began over 50 years ago.
I think her contribution to the state, as it is to the city, is just one of trying to help it be the best place it can be. A home that everyone can be proud, home state, home city.
A grande dame of Creole cooking and a true Louisiana legend, Leah Chase leads a life of selfless giving served with love. Hello, I'm Beth Courtney, your host for Louisiana Legends, and we are here with the Creole queen of cooking in the great state of Louisiana, and the restaurant is Dooky Chase's, and the queen is Leah Chase. And Leah, it is so wonderful to be here around lunchtime because the food, the smells are wonderful. Have you been preparing roux today already?
Today, yes. I have gumbo going, about 30 gallons of gumbo, 40 gallons of gumbo. That I always come early and prepare my own lunch, This morning was kind of struggle because my knees were, but I like to do that in the morning.
Every morning. You've been doing that for how many years now? Have you been preparing?
67.
67.
A long time.
You're doing something that you love, though, right?
I like to do that. And not only I like to cook, it's every day you meet people. I could not live one day if I didn't see people every day. I couldn't stay in my house because I wouldn't see people. people give you that drive, and they just give you that feeling to go, and that to me is important.
Well, the restaurant, it looks beautiful now. It's survived the hurricanes, and you did a lot of hard work there. But as I look in this beautiful restaurant today, I think back on what it must have been like when you were, as a young girl. Your mother, I understand, did not like to cook. So how did you first learn to cook?
My mother, well, you have to understand, my mother had 14 children. She raised 11 of us. So you cooking for the Army every day. And then, look, when I was born in, 1923, 1929, here's the Big Depression. So there's not much creativity you can do with food.
You're
in
just
that
feeding
situation.
them.
You're just feeding people the best you can do. But she never was she loved to bake, and she loved to bake bread. And she did a lot of that, but sewing was her thing more or less than cooking. She did not like to cook. So, but when you come up at my age, people my age, I don't care who you are, you get a turn in the kitchen. You have to have a turn in the kitchen. If it's just washing dishes or cleaning the pots, you do get a turn in the kitchen. So you basically know the basic rules. But she was not a great cook. Then in 45, 46, when I married Dooky, his mother was a good cook. And when she opened this place, she did her own thing in here. So I learned quite a bit from her. The rest I had to do like a lot of people my age, wing it.
Wing it, well, certainly, but you're very definite about your sort of roux, is that correct?
Yes.
You don't want that thick, sticky, dark.
I don't want that sticky,
that I end
dark
up cooking, I think.
Well, Cajuns do a dark roux, and they do it so well, I don't know till today how they do it without burning it, but they do it to perfection. With us, we don't do that. We make a brown roux, and I kid people. I say, you better take me in the kitchen because it's got to be my color, and go with the roux. So, but it's just different ways of cooking. That too, Beth, is interesting. How we have come together, the Cajuns and the Creoles, with our food. Because when I was coming up, people would say, oh, and they would refer to the Cajuns as those Cajuns, because they were Creole. Oh, those Cajuns, they can't do this and they can't do that. But they were more country, and the Creoles of color had a lot of things going for them. I just don't think they realized it at the time. They were good cooks, and they used always the best product they could use. We cooked with a lot of veal, like Paul used to say. Well, they could take an old
That would be
rooster.
Paul Prudhomme.
Paul Prudhomme, great man, great cook, great chef. And he used to say, well, we can take an old rooster and we can do this with it, and they could. But a Creole would not touch an old rooster. They had to have a nice fat hen, and they would go with the good product. So you see, and I'm glad that people have come together with those two cultures.
Well, one of the interesting things, though, I think about your whole dining experience is that you want it to be filled a evening or a day where art and beautiful surroundings are part of the dining experience, correct?
Yeah, I like that because, in the African-American community, when I started off, we had nothing. African-American artists had no place to show their work in the 40s, in the 50s. Even as late as the 60s, they had no place. So I started buying the art and put it on the walls here. Of course, my own people didn't understand it. I got criticized for it, but I thought I liked it, and I thought that was a good way to go. And like everything else, for a lot of people, it was a learning experience. Now, we know that when you go and buy a sofa, you don't have to match the art to the sofa. Mm-hmm. It can be whatever you want to put
different
there.
Styles.
Different styles.
Well, and I understand you actually went to Washington and you testified on behalf of the National Endowment for the Arts. Yeah. What was that like?
At the time, that was kind of frightening. I don't know why the museum chose me, but I got to talk to people about especially the Congress, about how important art was. And you have to spread it out because it is something that uplifts people. And it really has, just like I told them, for me, it was an investment for my own people. You know, I buy the art, they learn, and they see this, and they like what they see, or sometimes they don't understand what they see, but they learn. And it's all about learning. When you give a person an opportunity to learn, that is so important. And that's the best thing about integration to me in this. People were able to learn.
Well, people certainly were able to learn from one another at your restaurant back in the early civil rights days when planning things, and they would come together and learn. What was it like here? Give us a sense of that back in...
Back in the 60s, that was, even before the 60s, I remember Dooky more than because I spent those first years of our marriage trying to raise those children. I had 4 children, one right behind the other one. So my job was to see that those children it's funny that people do that. You want to see your children have what you didn't have. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they don't no more want what you wanted. They don't want a school bag. They don't want a raincoat, but you wanted that for them because that's what you wanted as a child. So I was busy doing that, but Dooky was on the road doing things with the NAACP. He would go out, try to sell memberships to the NAACP. So I worked way back there with Thurgood Marshall, A.P. Turo, all those people who worked in the NAACP. And when the 60s came, that was new to people my age. We didn't understand the movement. We were frightened by it. But sometimes we just cooperated with them. And I had a woman working here. She worked here for 40-some years till the day she died. And that's Aretha Castle Haley's mother, Virgie. Now, Virgie was exceptional, I think, because she didn't understand the program. And here her daughters were out on the road getting sent to jail and all that. But she was very cooperative. She helped wherever she could. And I learned to do that. You know, you don't understand a method. It was frightening to us that our children would go to jail, that we would do this or we would do that. But sometimes you have to take drastic measures to make drastic changes.
Well, you certainly have had politicians through the years coming through this restaurant to have good food, to have good conversation. You told me there was unusually one particular president that you had a good relationship with.
That's George W.
George W. Bush, yeah.
He was kind to me. He never came to this city unless he had sent for me. He sent the security. Now, I don't know what that was all about, if that was to ward off the shoes that people would throw at him or what. I don't know. I was there to protect him or what. But I felt very appreciative by that. You know, that he always thought enough of me to have me there wherever he was. And he had dinner here with all of his people, about 36, 37 of them, the big boys. Then the next time he came to New Orleans, he sent the security, and he said, they said, the president would like you to come to dinner with him at Commander's Palace. Okay, so you don't tell the president no. You never tell. So I get there, and the waiter say, well, look where you're sitting, Miss Chase. You're sitting right next to him. Oh, I say, I feel so privileged. You know, I'm sitting next to the president. Then he said, you want to cook breakfast for me? Oh, I really don't want to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, but I don't say no to the president.
So you did that?
I did that. And he brought the president of Mexico and the prime minister of Canada.
Oh, my goodness.
It was just about 14 or 15 of them. So I gave him braised quail and grits and shrimp. He said, I never had grits and quail before, but I like it. I said, okay. So he was kind to me through the times he came here. He really was. Basically, I thought he was a good man. He just didn't have good advisors. And people are what they are. And he just couldn't do his job.
Well, he may have been wondering about how you were doing following Katrina, because I'm sure he had regrets about flying over, and you certainly spent some time in a FEMA trailer, right?
I did, and I was, I have this man who comes to visit me from FEMA quite often, and I'll never forget him because I had no place to stay. My house was flooded up the street there. We were flooded here, so we had to get back in here to do whatever we had to do. And the trailer was good. It was a roof over your head at night. It was somewhere to lay down your head at night. So that cramped, I came up in a little house with 11 kids, so cramped style is not new to me. I'm used to cramped style. So, I could deal with those things. And if people my age know that, if they've been through a depression, they can deal with anything.
Well, you've certainly passed on a lot of good lessons to your children, your grandchildren. Now, you have some talented artists, some singing, some musical talent in your family as well.
Well, they took that from their dad. He's a great musician. He had a big band when he was only 16 years old. So they didn't get that talent from me. I have absolutely no talent.
You can't sing at all.
Can't sing a note, couldn't hear a note if I tried. But they took that after their father. And my son, it was too funny. That's why I learned that you cannot make a musician. That talent, some talent has to be there. Because we took my son, he was in the band at Jesuit, but he was what I call a methodical musician, read the notes and played them. But his music appreciation is unbelievable. He goes to the symphony all the time. He sits on a Musical Arts Society board. He loves the good piano playing, and that is good. He learns to appreciate that music. And some people, I always say, if you can, you do it. If you can't, you teach.
Well, certainly you create a symphony with all your food. Give us an idea of, if you could say, what would be your favorite meal, your favorite menu, all right? I'm going to say, Leah, this is what would you choose for somebody? This is the absolute favorite menu.
My favorite menu was to do a good gumbo first. Creoles always started with a good gumbo. Then you would have a good, what we call a cold fish dish. We boil this fish, we put this dill mayonnaise on it, and we serve it over a little shrimp salad. Then I'm a lover of quail, so we would have some braised quail after that. And my dinners would be long. I like long. Then we might stuff some chicken breasts with some oyster dressing, have some sweet potatoes and maybe a melito on the side, It's just good down-home cooking.
And a little, maybe bread pudding or something for dessert.
A little bread pudding or a little peach cobbler or something on the side. And then I'm a chocolate lover. You could have a little chocolate cake with ice cream. That's good, too.
Sounds fabulous.
I love good chocolate. So you could always end with a good chocolate for me. And it's just down-home things, and people really enjoy them. They really do.
Well, they do indeed, and they certainly enjoy coming here. And in addition to politicians, you've had some wonderful entertainers here, too, haven't you?
Well,
Ray Charles, I think.
Ray Charles, Duke Ellington, King Cole, Sarah Vaughan, Lena Horne, even the Jackson 5. I fed them until they were about 14, 15 years old. And then I didn't see them anymore. That was the last time I really saw Michael, when he was about 14 years old. That was their last meal here, and it was too funny because they had become of age to drink a glass of wine. And the stupidest wine they liked was a wine called Fratello Lambrusco. Sweet junk to me, but they liked it. So they would have their little glass of Fratello Lambrusco. But almost until Michael died, there was a man here who was a bodyguard when they were here. And if he would go to visit them, I would always make Michael's favorite thing, and that was sweet potato pie. Michael loved sweet potato pie, so I would always send him his sweet potato pie. And when he died, I tell you, I was so hurt by that. What, to me, was a hurting thing about a death like Michael's, like Elvis Presley's death, you surround yourself with people and they think you think they're your friends, and they truly are not your friends. Because if they were your friends, they would say, oh no, you shouldn't do this. Oh no, let me help you do that. But people don't do that. They don't do that.
It was interesting when I was reading some of the information about you that said one of your heroes, we look at who heroes are that we want to emulate, was George Patton. Now tell me about that. That's very interesting.
Well, you know, World War II, I was, about 13 years old. And the armies were going, they were fighting Mussolini. Mussolini was fighting Ethiopia. Would you believe I would listen to that on the radio? As a child, that was people, men particularly with emotional strength and physical strength, always fascinated me. And it just fascinated me, people with physical strength. And George Patton was one of them. He was crude, he was rugged, but he believed what he believed, and he set goals that he completed. He wanted to reach those goals at any cost, and I kind of like that. Sometimes that's bad, it's not good. You get rugged and you get rough. Like, you know, he got accused of slapping this black soldier, and I don't think people realize why he did that, you know, just big a no-no, you slapped him. But the soldier was breaking on him, really, and he just got so frustrated. He said, can't you see these men are dying around you? You can't break on me. And that's just what I would do. You can't break on me now.
Well,
Don't break on me.
Now, I understand that maybe younger you had a little bit of temper yourself. Is that right? But you mellowed out. Is that right?
I kind of mellowed out. I guess my friends, all the people, the civil rights workers, and some who were really way off the road, you know, I would fuss at them. I said, you can't do that. You can't hurt people in the process of getting what you want. You can't do that, and you're too militant. And they said, but you were militant yourself. But I wasn't. I didn't think I was militant, but I was always wanting people to have what was right for them, you know.
And you certainly are determined, maybe stubborn. Is that right too? You've set some goals that you want to have. What are the goals you have if you're looking forward now?
My whole goals in my life, since I started working in 1941, was to have a good restaurant. That was my whole life. And sometimes people would criticize me because one woman in the restaurant business that I just admired, and I started working in the restaurant business before she did, and that was Ella Brennan. Yes. But she's a dynamo when it comes to running that business. You know, she did what she had to do, and I always say I'd like to be like her. And people always read that the wrong way. It's not that you want to be that person. I didn't want to be General Patton. I want to do the things like he did. I want to have that much get up and go to be able to do the things that they did. She worked hard, and she'll tell you herself she had to scrub the toilets and all that. But she was determined to run a good restaurant. And in my community, we had no good restaurants. So that's my whole life, to bring the same thing back to my community. So everybody can come, and we can come together over food, and it's different kind of food, but so what?
You have been honored by virtually every organization. And is it your grandson or your son who's gone to Cordon Bleu?
My grandson.
Your grandson went to Cordon Bleu.
He's a dynamo in the kitchen. He is wonderful. But, you know, he comes to help me on the weekends at night. But he worked for Entergy before he went to the Cordon Bleu. He had his master's in business, and he worked for Entergy as an accountant. So after the storm, a while after, when everything got going, Entergy called him back and offered him this big, big salary that I couldn't meet. So I said, take this. Now you have a wife, you have a little baby, you had to buy a new truck, you had to buy a new house. He had the cutest little house, but naturally the wife said, too small, I need this, I need that. And you want to go and give the girl the best you can do. I said, you go work for Entergy, and then you help me when you can. But he's a master in that kitchen.
Well, do you see the next generation carrying on
Yes,
the tradition here?
he will come back here, and he will carry it on. And the rest of my daughter's here. She is a retired teacher, and sometimes she thinks this is the classroom, and it isn't. I said, it's not the classroom. You got to do a little bit different than you do in the classroom. But she works very hard in here. So they will run this thing right. I'm ready to turn it over right now if I could. Just you can run it.
Well, I understand that there was a young politician who came here to eat at your restaurant in your dining room, and he made the mistake of putting hot sauce on your gumbo. And who was that?
That was Mr. Obama.
But he came here to do that.
And you will see his picture up on the wall. Jim Amos said that picture, he's tucking all this in. I give him the gumbo and frying his chicken to take on the plane. He takes the hot stuff. Oh, Mr. Obama, you just can't put hot stuff in my gumbo. You didn't taste it. But I like hot stuff. I say, well, what you know from Chicago, you don't know from nothing about gumbo. You don't know about gumbo. You just don't do this. But I don't think he ever forgot that one time I met him here. And he said, you still mad at me? I said, no, I don't guess I'm mad at you. You learn you don't put hot stuff in that gumbo. So every time he sent for food, I sent him the hot stuff. Here's your hot stuff. Take it and go.
Well, good advice from a Louisiana legend and a wonderful, wonderful lady, and we thank you for sharing time with us. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for what you do. Thank you for what you do for the total community. It's a learning experience, and it's something we should never forget. Our people, in particular our state, people don't realize how great we are. They criticize us for not having industry. You don't have any industry, you don't have that. But I think we have the most important industry there is. That's people. We have a good tourist business. Nothing better than people. You see people. I tell them all the time, you could leave your hard work in your factories at home, come here, eat a good meal, have a good time, and then go back to your hard work and go back to it. So it's a purpose. It is good for people. So I'm appreciative to these people in Louisiana. We do well. We come together, the Cajuns, the Creoles, everybody.
Well, thank you so much, Leah, and I, can hardly stand it. Maybe we can stay for lunch.
I hope so.
And we thank everyone for watching Louisiana Legends, and we hope you'll join us for our next episode as well. I'm Beth Courtney. Good evening.
For a copy of this program, call 1-800-973-7246 or go online to www.lpb.org.
Funding for this program was provided by Community Trust Bank, serving the communities of North Louisiana, Texas, and Mississippi for more than a century. Community Trust Bank is a proud partner of LPB's Louisiana Legends.
Funding for this program was provided by the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting.